Thank you guys for being here today. I'm going to do a couple announcements and then we'll get into our little alumni panel. So just a reminder for you guys, today is the last day for the dues discount. If you want to get that 25% off, the link is in the chat already. If you want to save that for later, if you haven't already registered. And also the media kit deadline, if you're interested in submitting anything for a media kit deadline, is Friday. And also, if you are a registered PRSSA, member, you've paid your dues, our election is open right now for next year's e-board, and you should have gotten an email for that. And if you haven't, just let us know, like if you have already paid your dues but didn't get the email for whatever reason, because that election is going on right now and it is open until Friday. So just let us know in the chat if you have any questions about any of that. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So we want to welcome our panelists today. So I'm going to do a little introduction, read their little bios so you guys get to know them, and then we'll get into all the fun stuff. So first we have Jasmine, and Jasmine graduated from Kennesaw State University in May 2020. After graduation, she held multiple internships in marketing strategy and public relations before joining the Wilbert Group as an account coordinator. Jasmine served as the Kennesaw State PRSSA PR Director for the 2019-2020 academic year and remains active with PRSA Georgia as a volunteer DE&I committee member. So that's super awesome. Welcome, Jasmine. And now I'm going to introduce Lauren. Lauren is currently an account coordinator at Ketchum with nearly 3 years of experience in PR, client relations, and all things communication. As a recent graduate of Kennesaw State University and former PRSSA chapter president, she was able to work alongside an amazing e-board and chapter to win the chapter's first national Dr. F.H. Tehan Award and Pacesetter Awards. And in her current former role as PR coordinator, she has spearheaded campaigns, garnered earned media coverage, and created and managed special projects for clients in finance, wellness, entrepreneurship, and more. So welcome, Lauren. And then we have Steph. So Steph graduated from KSU in December 2020. She's about to start a new position as an account coordinator for Smartities, which is a public relations agency in Atlanta that specializes in construction and design PR. Steph interned with Naylor Association Solutions and Griffco Design Build while at KSU and was the PR director of PRSSA during her time in school. She is passionate about sports, and her dream PR job would be to run communications for a professional sports league or team. So welcome to all our panelists. We are happy to have you here today. So if you want to, I figure we could just go around and each of you sort of give your little, spiel. You can expand on the bio I just read, maybe give some tips you have. And then once you all do that, we can ask our burning questions about the transition from college to post-grad. So maybe we can have Jasmine go first just to tell us, just expand a little bit about on what I said and share anything you want. And then we'll go to Lauren and then Steph.
Okay. Well, hey, everybody. I graduated in May. Can everyone hear me? Everyone hears me? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what else? So May was a pretty chaotic time to graduate. And I had this idea in my head, I had a list of companies this time last year that I was applying to, actively interviewing for, and just ready to work for, straight out of college, ready to be a PR professional. And everyone knows what happened. Internships were declined, processes were just put on hold. But I was actually really lucky. I think graduation was on Wednesday, and I started an internship on Monday. So I worked at I worked for a demand generation marketing firm for the summer, and I did not like it. It was not PR at all. So when you hear, I think my lesson or word of advice is that I knew going into it that it wasn't what I wanted, but you have to pay your bills and you have to get experience. But my word of advice is that even though people try to clump marketing and advertising and PR together, that they are like completely different. So I was in Excel spreadsheets like all day over the summer. um, but I networked on LinkedIn all through the summer. I took every like mentorship opportunity I could, reached out to PRSSA Georgia. And through all of that work, I was able to get to the Woodward group. And I did like their fellowship program, which was really cool. And yeah, I'm loving it. Long story
That's
short, I
great.
guess.
That's great. That's crazy though how, everyone has like a plan and then it sort of gets taken away and
Well,
changes.
2020 killed plans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lauren, do you want to go next?
Yeah. Okay. Hey everyone. I know most of you. I do not know the other Lauren. So hello. But there's two Laurens. I know Lauren Nye. I don't know Lauren Chapman, but anyway, hello. So me, I graduated in December 2020. I didn't say that in my bio, but I graduated in December 2020. Wasn't as hectic because everybody kind of, I don't want to say got used to COVID, but that's kind of what it is. But for me, I did a lot of internships. I did two internships. I did one with Georgia EMC, and I did one with the Dalton Agency. And kind of banking off of what Jasmine said, in those internships, you kind of learn, or whatever job you have, you learn what you don't. And you figure out what PR. There's so many different areas, because in PR it could lead to you being a copywriter. It can lead to you going to creative planning. It can go into being an account. So doing different internships that expose you to different areas is very beneficial. So that's one piece of advice I would give. So through that led me to the internships, and then I actually the current she spoke at one of the meetings. Her name is Malika, and she spoke at one of our meetings one day, and I started working for her once I graduated. And then leading to that, it was really me just poking around on LinkedIn. And when I tell you literally just poking around, that means going into your network and seeing that explore page, and you're like, okay, they work for that company that I like. All right, cool, let's be friends. And then just clicking network. And then the lady from Ketchum, like the hiring coordinator, just reached out and was like, hey, we have a position open. And I was like, wow, this lady is like talking to me. That's crazy. And then I was like, sure. And then it's like the process went from there. But so really and then now I'm an account coordinator for Ketchum. This is actually, I started on Monday. So I'm like 3 days in. That's why I was saying, like, they were working me as in, like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. So I'm trying to, still onboarding and getting my bearings. But so far it's been great. They're all very nice people. But my two pieces of advice would be to utilize your internship to see what you like and don't like, and then use LinkedIn, because you never know who is looking at your LinkedIn, because the people from some of the top agencies might just be like, okay, look, she just graduated, and then it goes from there. So yeah.
Awesome. Steph, do you want to share a little bit about your story and any advice you have?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Steph. I graduated like Lauren in December of 2020. And when I graduated, I actually had two active internships in my final semester. I started with a publishing company in January of 2020 and had all the intentions of joining them after I graduated. I'd had conversations with them, going through the whole interview process. They said, we'll look at where we are in December. This was in January. We'll look at where we are in December, and then we'll have another conversation there. In March, the whole office went remote. I haven't talked or physically seen anybody in that office since, but they kept me on board, and I continued working with them and added another internship to my resume. And that was in-house PR, working in construction at a design build firm up in Kennesaw. And speaking of networking, she was a KSU grad who was stalking other PR majors LinkedIn profiles. and recruiting that way. She really needed an intern. She didn't have a full-time position available, but she needed an intern and she needed help. And that is how she found me, was stalking people on LinkedIn. So absolutely, make sure your LinkedIn is up to date. And so the role that I'm starting in on Monday with Smartities, I actually found through this design build firm that I've been working with. And I'm really, really excited. If you know me, you know that I've always said that I didn't want to work agency. I took agency class in in my final semester, and I said, this is cool, but I don't think it's for me. And it turns out I found an agency. I really, really like them, and I'm really excited to get started. So my advice is never shut anything down completely. There's always going to be something that's you'll want to keep the door open for.
I like
Yeah.
that. It's good to keep an open mind, I think. So I think we can go ahead and start jumping into questions. I have some, and I'm sure some of you guys will have some too. So just keep in mind, like, what do you want to know about transitioning from college to that post-grad afterwards and what that's all like. But I think the first question would be, we're in, lots of us are doing online classes and stuff, and we've done that, but what's your tips for working remotely, online working, things like that? And, how can we do that effectively?
I can start since I kind of talked about this before. So for me, I have two things, and this might not work for everybody, but it's just what I've learned. Two things is build a schedule. And whether that is you writing something out, like I have a little dry erase board over here, and it's color coded and everything, just because love me color coded everything. But I have to build a schedule, so that's very important to me. Working from home, and then also take breaks, because especially so for me personally, this is only my third day in this position, but from 8:30 a.m. and then I stopped at 6 a.m. It goes by so quickly, and then you realize that I ate twice today. So I'm just like, okay, wow. So take breaks so whether it's 15-minute breaks 3 times during the morning and then 3 times during the afternoon, but you have to remember to just get up, walk around, go outside, play with your dog if you have one, play with your pet, just remember just to get up and move around, because it can be so easy for you to just get caught up in your screen and what you're doing that the time can go by so quickly. So make a plan, make a schedule, and then remember to take breaks and rest your brain.
Yeah, I think that's good, because when you sit and stare at your computer all day, at least for me, I start becoming more unproductive. But if I just stopped and took 10 minutes away, then I'd come back and was like, I'm doing better work, I feel like. So I have to remember to do that too.
Exactly.
Yeah. Jasmine or Steph, do you guys have any tips on that? Have you had to work remotely? I know, Steph, you have.
I've been remote and in the office. One of my internships was remote and the other one was in the office. So for me, it was kind of balancing my days. I would work Mondays and Tuesdays remotely, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in an office doing a completely different job. So I kind of would get lost in the rhythm of the week. Just I feel like at one point I looked at my calendar in mid-February and I was like, 2 weeks have flown by. Where did the time go? Because you just get so caught up in the repetition. So I would say really just make sure, like Lauren says, you want to stay on top of it. You have to stay organized. There's no way to be successful unless you are organized, just even in the office or remote.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. I've had 3 different internships. So I've worked with March 2020, and I think it's just important to, if you were in an office working those 9 hours, you would have a lunch break. You would probably get up and you have you go to the bathroom, you probably have a 15-minute break. And I feel like it's easy, when you're in your or in the living room, to just kind of work through those. So I think my advice is just to take your breaks. And not like like you need to like work so hard, like be the best entry level worker you can be, but like don't don't like risk your like mental health writing a press release. Yeah. So I like prioritize, like realize that we are in like a really weird time, and like do what you can and do the best for the company that you're working with, but also realize that your health and like mental health comes first.
I also have something to add on Jasmine's point. Like, also don't be afraid to just reach out to your boss or whoever the person you is above you, and just to go, if you ever feel like overwhelmed or anything, just be like, hey, this is where I am, and like I need help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And that's honestly like while you're in college and then when you get to your entry level job, because like sometimes like I felt like 2 days ago I was like, I'm an entry level person, like I'm not gonna ask like any questions. And then literally they were like, no, you need to ask all the questions because like we want to know how we can help you, because they want to help you. That's why they hired you. That's because they want to see you succeed in your career. And it's not doing you any good for just from just like sitting there and like, oh, I know what I'm doing, and then you're like, I don't. They're like, this girl doesn't know what she's doing. So just don't be afraid to ask questions, and just don't be afraid to ask for help, because you don't want to get run down doing like the simplest task when somebody above you is just like, hey, there was an easier way for you to do this. All you had to do was ask. So kind of like what Jasmine said, like don't risk your mental health, just ask and take your breaks and things like that.
I like that. I have one more just to it sort of goes with what you were starting to talk about, Lauren. And that's what are your tips for like being new at maybe a new job, or it's your first, job and you've only had internships, you're just graduated and you feel like new and you don't know anybody, you don't know what you're doing. What are your tips for sort of overcoming that? Just like fear of the unknown when you're in a new position.
I mean, I guess I can take this because I'm about to do that. So, I mean, I'll probably have more advice for you next week than I would, but I would say like going into it, my interview process, at least for this job, I've already met everyone that I'm going to work with. So every interview process is going to be different. It might be in person, it might be in Zoom. You might be introduced to the entire team doing 4 or 5 interviews before you actually get hired. And if that is the case, it's a lot easier to walk into that office or log on for the first time because you're not meeting someone for the first time. Um, but if you are meeting someone for the first time, if you're not the only new hire, it can be a bit easier. Walking into an office with somebody else who's kind of in that same position. If it's just you, you just gotta step out of your comfort zone. You just gotta step in and say, hi, this is who I am. I've been hired to do a job here and I hope to do the absolute best that I can. Just have that mentality walking in.
I like that.
I agree with Steph. So like, because for me, I was coming in with a group of new hires, but it was a range of levels. So it was like me at the bottom, and then it was like a vice president, also a new hire. So, and she wasn't even anywhere near what I was doing. But like Steph said, like you have to go in with that mentality, and it's harder now because you can't just walk into the office unless you can get whenever we go back into the office, and then that's when you get hired. But you can't just go into the office now and be like, hey, my name's Lauren, like over the coffee machine. No, it's like you have to do that over Zoom now, and it can be a whole thing. But something that I took upon myself, and it's just me, and I'm a very kind of outgoing type of person, is that I just, in our onboarding, they gave us a list of all of our higher ups and who we would be reporting to. And I just reached out to them and asked them if they had time to schedule like a welcome call just to say, hey, I'm going to be working for you. How's everything? I just want you to see my face. And then I'm excited to work with you. Sometimes it's just, you can also just send an email just so they know who you are, and so they know that, okay, this is the person that's going to be working on my team, and it kind of gives points to you too because you took the effort to reach out. So just whenever you, not whenever, when you get hired for your first job, just take that effort to reach out and say, hey, either through a call or an email to your higher up so they know that you're on their team.
And I'll piggyback off of that and say, like always like schedule meetings with people and like introduce yourself to everyone. And something I did, like I started at the Wilbert Group as an intern around the same time as an account coordinator and an assistant account executive. So we all started around September, October. New hires during a pandemic and basically just new to that agency and the industry. So I see this a lot, like outside of work too, like as entry-level professionals, we always want to like network with people who are more senior. And like, especially like on LinkedIn, we're always looking for like the account supervisors, the VPs, things like that. And I think it's almost even more important to network with people who are your peers. So I created, like, we use Slack at work. So I created like a Slack group for like the people that, like the new hires that like we're on like the same type of level, just so we could have kind of like a place where like if we don't feel like asking our supervisor a question, we can ask each other like, hey, did you figure this out? Or like any type of question like that. Like I feel like it's so important to like get to know like your peers, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because you're not going to be like sitting and maybe having lunch with them, but doing something like a Slack channel is a really cool idea. Does anybody else have any questions that they want to ask before I go down my list? Dorothy, go ahead.
I was like, should I just raise my hand? I'm really curious to know, as you guys have started to like settle into more permanent full-time roles, how has your workload changed? Like I've had internships and, you know, like student positions, but how much work are you given? Like what's your daily task list usually? And I know it's different every day, but how much are they expecting you to get accomplished? Especially, I'm curious like how it differs from in-house to agency.
Jasmine, I'll let you, if you want to start, because you've been in the role longer. I kind of just put you on the spot. I'm so sorry. But I can do it after you.
Yeah, so I think it'll differ like at like every, like I think it'll differ like with the size of your agency, the size of the I guess corporation that you're with. I think like when I first started at the Wilbert Group, I started as the intern, but I think this agency compared to other agencies I've been with, I was definitely treated like treated like an account coordinator. Like I've been at agencies where I just kind of wrote press releases and scheduled social media, but I didn't interact with clients at all. So once I joined the Wilbur Group, I was like interacting with clients. I had like 7 accounts like back in like October. So it really just depends there, but I think they keep in mind that they still know that you are either the account coordinator, the assistant account executive, or the intern. They aren't expecting you to do, they aren't expecting you to do account executive work where you are. And I think that was kind of hard for me transitioning from student to entry-level professional is that I thought, or not that I thought, but when you're a senior in college, you're used to like feeling on top of the world, and like even like in the agency class, like you are positioned like you are like an agency professional with like years of experience. But like it was jarring for me because what we did in that class was kind of like, oh, this is what my supervisor does, like not what I am responsible for. So what I do now is like a lot of media lists, a lot of pitching. I do write press releases, but it's not always like that, like back and forth client interaction. But like long story short, like what you actually asked, like they aren't gonna expect you to like do crazy like supervisory amounts of work. Like they are expecting you to be an intern or an account coordinator or entry level. So if that helped at all.
Can I ask a question, Jamie? Is that okay? Okay, so
Question.
I love looking at your guys' LinkedIn and your websites. Do you recommend using Wix for your websites? Because I saw, I think Lauren, do you have a Wix website you made on Wix?
So, me and Wix. All right. Okay, me as like a broke college student. Oh, I'm not a college student anymore. What in the world? As a broke
Alumni.
As a broke alumni in a pandemic. Okay, how about that? Yeah, me and Wix were just like battling with like all these fees. I was like, I'm not using half of these, so let me drop Wix. So I made a Adobe Spark web page sort of thing, and that was just easier for me because I already knew how to use it from a previous course, and I just listed out, basically copy and pasted my resume and did all that stuff, and you can still click the links and all that on Adobe Spark, and that was just easier for me to use, and it's a free website and it's a free site, so it's not like InDesign or different things like that where you have to pay, but it's just, you can just type in Adobe Spark and you can link it, you can publish it. So once you publish it, you have a shareable link, and then you can just put that in the place of where you
That's awesome. See, I read it. So I was going to make an Adobe Spark website, and I read it somewhere, maybe they changed it, but that they remove it once you lost your Adobe account. And I know as KSU students, we all get it for free. But
oh yeah, so that was made under my Gmail account. So once I lost my Kennesaw account, I just made a new one under my Gmail account, and that's just what I use.
I'll use my Gmail. Okay.
Because like right now I like still like making logos and things, so I just put all that under it. But so if you're like me and just like money's not your friend, just use Adobe. I like using Adobe Spark, and it works for me. And I don't know how people are like, if people see it. Well, I mean, you can see, but I don't really check that. But I like doing it, and it was easy enough for me to make. So
that's awesome. Thanks, Lauren.
No problem.
I had
Ashley.
about the Adobe. How long was it before you lost your account after you graduated?
So I can actually, I still have access. I still have access to all my KSU stuff. Personally, I think you still get a year with your email address from your graduation date. I did lose access to, I still have access to like Spark, but I did lose my Photoshop, which I'm sad about.
Yeah, I think they made that where right when you graduate, they like check and then they take it away.
But like I still get my KSU
bummer.
email. I still get the PRSSA emails to my KSU email. Like it's still there. So you can still get Amazon discount, Spotify discount, all that still good.
That's the day I'm ready. Is when they increase my Spotify, and I'm gonna be like, really? So now I gotta re-enroll in college again, basically, because
Me too. I was like,
okay, I gotta have my Spotify, I guess. Okay.
So when you lost your Photoshop stuff, did you still have access to get everything that you had saved in there previously and get it off, or did you lose everything?
I was told that I would lose everything. I don't know. I haven't, so I put it all on a USB drive. So I do have it, but I don't have a way of opening it because I don't have Photoshop at the moment. I'm hoping that when I start my job on Monday, they're gonna be like, here's Adobe Suite. So I can work on some of that stuff, but it's mainly just personal projects. But yes, I downloaded everything to a USB drive and saved it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what is like a skill or a piece of advice that you learned in PRSSA that you didn't know was going to be helpful until you got out into the workforce?
I like that question.
I don't know. I feel like my current soapbox right now.
Oh my God.
My current soapbox right now is, I don't know. Okay, something I learned in PRSSA was definitely, I feel like I learned about or like kind of like perfected my networking and LinkedIn skills. So like if you don't have, if your LinkedIn isn't set up and you aren't actively using that, like pretty active, like at least once a month, or like I'm on LinkedIn like at least once a week. But yeah, like networking is like the biggest thing I got out of PRSSA. Yeah, I think there was definitely some things that, and like there's only so much you can learn in school. And a lot of the things we learn in school are like very like the fundamentals and being like practical things, like learning how to write and like that type of thing. And then like my social media experience that I got in school was great. Like if I can give like any college student a like tip of like, this is something that you will need to know as an account coordinator or intern at a PR agency, just kind of like familiarize yourself with the idea of an editorial calendar and like editorial opportunities. So there are like I remember we had like the briefest moment of like going on a website for a newspaper and like finding their editorial opportunities, like 10 minutes in one of my PR classes. But that's like something I devote like so much of my time to as an account coordinator. So if you ever have like questions about that, feel free to like ask me. But that, yeah, just I feel like editorial opportunities and like pitching is so big. Like pitching is just as big as writing the press release. So you learn a lot about writing press releases in school. But I feel like pitching didn't get as much attention, which is literally just like the email you draft up to send to the reporter. So those are just things to just like be prepared for. It is coming.
I would say, oh, Marnie, you go. I would say something that this was specifically in my role on the e-board, but the cold email and learning how to just reach out to people who you have no, just you might have one person that you're connected with on LinkedIn, or they have their job offer that you saw 2 connections ago on LinkedIn, or it was an email thread or something. But just putting yourself out there, and I actually learned this in one of my internships over the summer as well. But it was just the ability to get 5 minutes of confidence to type up an email or copy and paste the email that you already have written and tweak it the way it needs to be tweaked and hit send on whatever it was, and to not be disappointed if you didn't get a reply. That was the hardest thing because people are busy. We're in a pandemic, whatever the reason may be, maybe they just didn't like you, and just having to like learn how to move on from that, that was a skill I had to learn.
I agree. And piggybacking off of that, I used to tell myself, I hate myself sometimes, but I used to tell myself, don't be afraid to slide into their LMs, their LinkedIn messaging, so I used to tell myself that. But because as the vice president, I used to have to schedule the speakers for our next meetings, and there would be millions of times I would just be like, all right, this person is in this department, let's see, and just cold pitch them. And so like Steph said, don't be afraid to reach out. And also just to get a feel of the room, who's taking PR writing right now? You are. And then of course, has everybody else taken PR writing? Clearly. Okay, cool. So with PR writing, all I would say now is with me being on the e-board, I had the opportunity to write the team PRSSA emails that Jamie now currently does. And that being able to really perfect my shorthand writing and really getting brief and to the point is really important. Because especially going back to what Jasmine said with pitching, reporters are not going to want to see your lovely press release because they get 5 million press releases a day. And they only have remember this to be prepared, they only have 7 seconds to read your pitch. And like you probably heard this with resumes. They only have 7 seconds to look through your resume. So just perfect your shorthand pitching. So whether that is, social media posts for LinkedIn, or when you get on the e-board and you are tasked with writing those team PRSSA emails, you doing those brief, straight to the point topics. So I would really take advantage of any writing opportunity. And I know you hear that a lot, like take advantage, but no, really take advantage, because you don't know how often they're gonna be like, hey, can you draft this up in 30 minutes? And then you write this long 4-paragraph thing, and then you don't want to get your feelings hurt when they're like, yeah, we only need 1 paragraph of this. And you're like, I just wasted all this time. So just really kind of perfect and work on your shorthand writing, because that will get you far.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I got kicked out a bit, but I'm glad I caught the end of that one. Does anyone else have any other questions? Go ahead, Lauren. Yeah.
When you guys were applying for jobs, did you guys have any hesitations about working online? Like, I'm such a people person. Like, I would be so afraid that I wouldn't be able to have any connections with my coworkers, or even get to know them and have that kind of camaraderie. How did you all feel about applying?
I can start. Sorry, we need to figure that. So, one thing that I was hesitant, because I am like you, I'm a people person, and most of whoever I was on the e-board with, like Jamie and Jasmine, they know I can talk to like a tree. But so I agree. I was hesitant just because I'm in the basement, and the internet connection isn't that great down here. So it really wasn't that good for me. But I was just more hesitant regarding not who I can talk to every day, but more what was the environment going to be like once we leave remote to in person, because that's a very different effect. It's gonna be like, hey, I know you from online, but yeah, that's pretty much it. But so one thing that's pretty good that my agency does is they do a monthly town hall with everybody in the different offices. But for just the women, they also do a girls meeting every week. So that was something that, wow, I don't know if you can hear my dog barking, but that was something that helped me, because just you can get together with your girls and just have a little girl chat every week, and then you have your monthly town hall as well with your team. So, and then also, we're kind of like we said, if that's not created, don't be afraid to reach out and ask your boss, like, hey, this is something that I heard somebody else has been doing. Is there a way we can make this happen? So really, if it's what I would say, if it's not already implemented, don't be afraid to ask for it to be implemented. So I know that kind of went off with the hesitation, but in the beginning I was kind of hesitant, but also I kind of already knew how to navigate it because school was online. And it was kind of the same with like me interacting with my teacher and my classmates, but more along like side getting with the camaraderie and the environment, I would say, make a plan to try to reach out with your supervisor and ask for that town hall, ask for those weekly team meetings, because it might not only help you, but you never know who else might need that little bit of support. Yeah.
I like that. That's really good. Did Steph or Jasmine, do you have anything to add to that?
Going along to the hesitation part of your question, I will say, when do you graduate, Lauren Chapman?
This fall 2022.
Okay, so I will say, like, for me, graduating in December and only applying to small agencies and in-house in-house corporations, like really small businesses. I knew that going into it, most of these places had already gone back to work physically. So for me, I knew that an online environment. So when I was looking at internships and things like that, I was looking for environments that would have me in the office. When I start, I'll actually be on a hybrid situation. And I know a lot of smaller agencies in the Atlanta area are doing that, at least right now. So if that's something you really are concerned about, mask mandates and everything, whatever you're comfortable with physically, and that's, a different thing. But there are agencies out there who are looking to get people back in the office and try to rebuild. So if that's something you're looking for, I would recommend smaller places. On LinkedIn, if they say they've got 20 to 40 people working here, that might be a place for you or anyone else who's really looking for that in person. And even online, because when you've got a smaller agency, you can get to know people a little bit better. And that's not to say you can't in a big agency, you just kind of get to know your team a lot better in a really big agency.
Yeah, it's hard though, because like I'm thinking about I have an internship this summer after I graduate, and it's going to be virtual, and everyone I tell it about, they're like, oh, you're going to be in the office? I'm like, no. But I'm excited because even just through the interview process, they were like, oh, there's different things that they have planned throughout the internship, so that you're like connecting with people and you're like learning from people, and there's lots, it's not just like you're sitting by yourself at your desk all the time. So I think that's something to consider too, because like big companies typically will do like, lunch and learns and things like that, and like get-togethers virtually, even if that's the way they're still set up. So that's something to keep in mind. Do we have any other Lauren, go ahead.
I had one thing to add just off Steph's point with the agencies, like the smaller agencies that want people back. I actually had the privilege to intern with, it's called the Dalton Agency in Atlanta, and starting in June. And they are an agency, so it's located in 3 states, but the Atlanta office, it was maybe 14 people. And so for their internship, so that was kind of like the height of COVID, like in June. And there was one person that just did the entire thing remote from Florida, but she still worked in the Atlanta office. And we had the opportunity to come into the office if we want. So I went Monday and Wednesday, and then I work remote the rest. And they were very adamant. It was everything like PPE, masks, sanitized, everything. So there are, like Steph said, they do want you back, because as communicators, we need to be surrounded by like people, and we need to, talk to the people right here next to you. So that's just an example of like, they want you back and they want you in the office. And we still were able to do the lunch and learns, just, very socially distanced and everything. But then you also had your time to work from home remote. So they made it very comfortable for you, because they want you to learn from the best, and but they also wanted you to be as comfortable as possible. So it is possible.
Thanks for that, Lauren. I had a quick question actually. And this probably is more for Jasmine and maybe Lauren with your past work with Malika. What is it like, and is it sort of hard? Do you find it difficult to juggle multiple like accounts working at an agency? And what is that sort of process like when you have so many different like clients that you're doing different things for?
Okay, so I'll start. I'm not gonna lie and say that it isn't challenging. like you can definitely compare it to taking multiple classes, and like when you have multiple classes, sometimes sometimes the midterms all align on the same date, or so I think of it like that. When you are at an agency and you have you're going to have more than one client at a time, and you might have anywhere from like 3 to 5 clients. Helps me to kind of look at it, especially as someone who just transitioned from college, to look at it like I'm taking multiple classes and I dedicate a certain amount of time to this client and this on. And so I look at it the same way. Of course, it's gonna be easier, like, when you are taking one class during the summer versus taking 5 classes, 6 classes. So that's how I look at it, but I use the same strategies I used in school to make it work. So like I'm very into using a planner and very into using Google Calendar, and will like write down each of my clients, like write down their name, write down like my goals for the week for that, everything that I have due, and just kind of take it one day at a time. Like there's only so much that's going to be due by 5-6 o'clock, and then you go home or you close the laptop and then you start it again the next day. So it's not like it's definitely, it's doable. Like you can do it. And it's like you might have 5 clients, but you're also doing certain work for those 5 clients while you have like your own account with there are other people on your team. There might be an assistant account executive, there might be an account executive and an account supervisor. So you work together to get everything accomplished. Even like you might be the first one to draft the press release, and then it goes up and people review it. This work that you aren't, like when you're in school, you're doing it alone, but when you're at work, you're not.
That's good
For
to hear.
me, so sorry. Okay, cool.
No,
So
that's it. Go ahead.
so from I have like 2 perspectives. So with Malika, it was the clients were more individuals, and with Ketchum, the clients are brands, like companies. So for me, and I was given clients in different industries with Malika. So that for me was a little bit difficult to manage because it wasn't just finance. It was okay, so you have a finance client, but you also have a wellness client, and you also have a um I don't know, somebody else. But they were just from different industries. So that was just a little bit and that was me coming right out of college, and I was like, "Oh, okay. So this is how it's going to be like." So I was like, "Okay, so it's me, like you said, from the with what Jasmine said with the planners. That was very, and that was me like drawing the lines and writing them all out on the dry erase board. So and then so I took that. It was very important for me to really delegate the different tasks for them. But with Ketchum, it's different client. It's 3 different accounts, but they're all under the same industry. So that makes it a little bit easier to maintain because you're kind of always looking at the same either websites. You're always kind of pitching to the same reporters. So it kind of makes the account management a little bit easier, even though you might have 3 or 4 or 5 accounts. If it's under the same industry, it makes it a little bit easier to manage than it is with different clients under different industries. But so far, account management, I mean, I enjoy it. And then that was one thing you have to kind of figure out. Agency might not be for everybody. If you like focusing on one specific company, but you like doing different things under that one brand, then in-house might be for you. But if you really like for me, like for agency, I enjoy agency because it did divulge me into different industries that you might never get to learn about. Like I never thought I would like finance. You guys, I was terrible at math, but here I am. So that's just kind of I know I went off track, but that was just also my little spiel of making, try those different industries out with your different internships. But yeah.
I like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, to Lauren's point about trying different industries, like I said in my intro, I always said I was going to go corporate. I always knew I wanted to go corporate. I want to do one thing. I don't want to, my brain, I was like, I just want to focus on one thing. And I learned that there are boutique agencies and smaller agencies out there that specialize in one industry. So now I've been working in construction, public relations since August, and I found an agency that's all they do is construction, design, build, business to business, public relations. And so that's where all my work will be located is, yes, it's an agency, but it's all housed in one location. And I think in one industry. And I think when you can find that balance, because they are out there, there's so many like agencies that you've never heard of that are 10, 15, 16 people that specialize in one industry. And they're great places to get started.
Awesome. I think Kiana had typed a question. She's asking if you send press releases from your regular email or an email from your company. I think, Jasmine.
I just typed it out, but every internship I've had just personally has provided a work email address. So I've worked at 2 different agencies, and I've had a corporate communications position as well. So when you're with, I would say like either if you're with a company, maybe like an established brand, I feel like they're gonna have like everyone that's working there is gonna have a work email, and I don't see why. I feel like it would be kind of weird if you didn't get a work email.
Yeah.
So
like, for instance, I was like, my first internship was at Make-A-Wish, and I was just an unpaid summer intern, but they gave me a work email because I had to email like Wish family stuff. And so they had my whole like email system set up. So yeah, I've always experienced that too. Let me check the time. I think we have time for one more question if we have one before we need to wrap up. So does anyone have any burning questions they wanted to ask?
I have one more question. Well, it's kind of to piggyback off that. I currently intern with a brand now, but I'm sending press release from my regular email. But in my current internship, they gave me a work email, and I noticed that I got more feedback from that actual work email versus my personal email. And so now it's like, I don't really know how to go about it because I don't want to feel like I'm not doing my job, and I continue to keep doing a follow-up, but I feel like it's because it's coming from my personal email. So
I get that. Like it could even be going to spam. Like I take that back. Like I've had one internship. It was with a nonprofit, but it was like a very small nonprofit where I worked out of a personal email, but I did not send anything to the media. We kind of just like, I communicated with my supervisor through my personal email, and I did social for them. But I would say like just like if you are gonna be doing like media relations through your personal email address, just like make sure that it's like as professional as possible. Maybe like first name, period, last name, that type of thing. Because I feel like a journalist, I have seen journalists that use Gmail, especially if they are freelance. So it's not unheard of to like receive a press release from a personal email address. Just make sure it's not like something silly. Like,
yeah, I mean, my email is my regular name. I just feel like I got a better result when they gave me from the prior intern an actual like work email versus me sending it from my personal email.
Yeah.
And then she just keeps saying follow up, but it's like, I wonder, are they really seeing my email since it's coming from my personal email?
I mean, it's possible that they aren't. Journalists, I mean, they say like journalists are so busy. I pitched something back in December and just now got a response. And that's from like my work email address. So sometimes they will see something and like they don't have the time for it, or like it could just even be like filtered through that they only receive emails from certain organizations, or like it'll go to a spam folder. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Someone else was
Thank you.
I know we're running over time, but I'm just gonna say this really quick thing. Just regarding like the journalists, like I used to be in contact with one journalist, and kind of like Jasmine said, like you may pitch in September and not hear a thing until December. One thing I heard from a journalist is that sometimes they only read, like your client might not be for that time, but when they're waiting for that right story, they're gonna star your name, and then they're gonna be your client's gonna be the first star they see. So sometimes no response is okay. But regarding the follow-up, I was always told by Malika, 2 is the limit. So the first time is around 48 hours, so the 2-day mark, and the second time is around like another day mark. And then if you don't hear back the second time, that's either they're just not interested, or maybe they're just waiting for that perfect time for the story. So don't get discouraged, but that just might be another example.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Lauren. Let's go ahead and take our picture before anyone has to leave. So if you want, you can turn your camera on if it's off. If not, just fix your hair, do whatever. And let me try to take a couple screenshots. Give me 1 second. All right.
Ready?
Everyone ready? All right.
Yes.
Give me 1 second. Actually, my computer is glitching. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, got it. So I just want to say thank you so much to Lauren, Steph, and Jasmine for being here today and answering all of our burning questions. You guys had some great advice for us. And just a quick reminder to everyone, don't forget about our election, the media kit contest. If you're interested, if you've been working on that, it's due Friday. Elections are also, get your vote in by Friday. And yeah, check your email later tonight. I will be sending out some exciting information. And yeah, I think that's it. Oh yeah, and connect on LinkedIn with our guests. Steph just said, and Lauren, can we connect with you too, Jasmine?
No, just kidding.
Not Jasmine.
Yes, you can. Yes.
Yes, awesome. Just let them know that you're from PRSSA. But thank you guys so much, everyone that was here
Thanks,
tonight.
guys.
And
Guys.
see you guys all later.
Bye.
Bye.
It was so good to see everybody.
I